From WWL-TV, this is a Channel 4 editorial with Phil Johnson.
Good evening.
Welcome back to our special celebration of 60 years of Channel 4. For more than half of those 60 years, two names loomed large in Channel 4 history, and I know all of you have stories that you can share about the two men, former GM J. Michael Early, Mr. Early, and Phil Johnson, who of course was news director, editorialist, assistant station manager, won 3 Peabody Awards for documentaries. My goodness, they both were just giants.
Giants definitely in this city, in the world of broadcasting, but throughout CBS. I mean, these truly were giants.
Network people, big names in network, respected them.
Good evening. This is the 5 o'clock news for Monday, February the 22nd. Well, still no word this evening on the fate of television.
He was the guy, he just came out of the screen into your living room, sat at the table across from you, and told you what was going on. That was what it felt like. And he was fearless.
He was an investigative reporter. He went after stories. He went after big stories, and he won the Peabody and so many, the Edward R. Murrow Awards. He had just a stack of awards for his reporting skills because he was in this business for the story.
And he was one of those larger-than-life characters. I mean, when Bill was in the room, Bill took all the energy out of it.
Whatever Bill was involved in, he did it 1,000%.
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing else he cared about. And investigative reporting, he confronted wrongdoers like no one else could. It was just amazing.
And it was very much who he was.
Yeah.
And likewise, his anchor style was very, very distinct.
Yes, it was.
And we all loved him. And all right. I still hear it.
Yeah, all right. Thank you for stopping by this desk.
Was his little commentary at the end of the 5 o'clock news where he would just speak about some personal thing to the audience. And, you know, he would say, this reporter and his wife went
This reporter. and not Joe went camping. This reporter.
And everybody remembers at the very end of his newscast, he needed a 5-second line to hit CBS Evening News. What was it? Now we switch you live and direct. Yeah.
Or at 6, but right now we stop and switch you live and direct to the CBS Evening News.
And he would call you, if it was a big story, like if you were out live on a big story, he'd call Mike Haas Michael, or me Margaret. He'd call you, thank you, you know, William, you know.
Writing for Bill, I mean, I was always scared to death writing for Bill because you did not want to make a mistake.
No.
See, you wrote for Bill, I wrote for you. That's much scarier.
Mistakes were possible.
We had Bill at noon and 5, and then we had Angela and Garland, right, at 6 o'clock, and let's talk about him too.
No, you know, Garland was, I think, an exceptional anchorman. Something you said earlier, you know, he would fluff words, and he would make fun of himself fluffing the word.
Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, he did it, is having a tough time finding a permanent home. After being kicked out of the United States, the Indian called leader returned to his native country. It's the easy words I have trouble with. Then the guru traveled to Nepal, but that wasn't to his liking either. The next port of call was the Greek island of Crete. However, Greek officials soon, they pulled out that welcome mat. Now the Bhagwan and his entourage are hoping to find peace and tranquility in Antigua.
I am very, very proud of you.
Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, you said it beautifully. You know, it's the these and the ands that get you, right?
But he really had much more of a command of that desk than I think a lot of people gave him credit for. And look at the reporting this man did.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you realize that his last story going out the door as he retired from Channel 4, he won an Emmy, a national Emmy.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was a beautiful writer, and I think very, very sensitive to stories.
He also was that kind of guy that, I mean, when you looked at him, you go, that's an anchorman.
Yeah.
You know?
He was an anchorman's anchorman because he was more than just an anchorman. He was a reporter.
Yep.
He cared very much about this
great
community.
passion for what he did.
He had a passion and a heart for this community, and I think that's what defines Channel 4. Channel 4 has always been part of the fabric of New Orleans because of Louisiana, I would say, because the people who were the leaders, they had a heart for this area, and they realized that we are serving this community.
But I did love Garland's sense of humor. That was that's what I remember the most about Garland.
Unmerciful. I don't know how we both didn't get fired.
But still, when I'd go to the gym in the morning, people would talk about Garland, how he joked with Jim Henderson, and then Dennis, how he would joke with Jim Henderson. That's what they remembered, was that rapport in the newscast.
Well, again, I think that was very heartfelt. Friends, family, a comfort level that we happen to be on television sometimes was a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, you know what the audience also loved that I still hear about to this day? Andre Trevine putting Eric Paulson in his place. Tell me about that, Eric.
Andre and I were like nails on a chalkboard together, and you know, we started out, and for some reason there was just I don't know, some kind of a chemistry, and we just loved fighting all the time on the air. And you know, people saw us fighting, and they think that was, I mean, it was how we acted. But we became the best of friends. I mean, I was close to Andre till the day she died. And but on the air, I mean, we would grate each other's nerves like brother and sister, kind of like Sally and I do now.
Sally, how do you do it?
But Sally doesn't fight back.
Well, you know, and I really learned so much from Andre about how to be in the morning. I mean, Andre was a role model for all of us who followed in her footsteps.
Smart.
Oh my goodness! And
Very
she
smart.
knew this city like the back of her hand.
She
knew
was
every.
an amazing reporter, having covered a lot of stuff with her, working on things, and she had an amazing tenacity, intelligence, and an ability to tell a story that made you just couldn't tune away. You just
And
you're stuck with the TV.
let's talk about another legend whom we miss so much in the morning, Frank.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
I'll tell you, this sums up Frank. When I went to go do that story in Houston when Frank got sick and we knew it was going to be bad, we put the story on the internet, and we had a new news director who had come from out of town. And there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of hits on our story. And he was shocked. And I said, I'm not shocked. I said, people adored Frank Davis. But he didn't understand how people adored him, that many people would look at the story about him.
No, Frank was an original.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it's so
no doubt
good
about
that we have a causeway named after him.
And a kitchen named after
And a
him.
kitchen named after him.
And Frank was the only
Frank Davis
person
kitchen.
that I've ever met who could read the phone book, and the entire community would roll on the floor laughing.
Or do 2 hours on cooking hot dogs and stretch it out and make it interesting. And he's just boiling hot dogs.
Talk to anyone and make it, you know, fun and enjoyable.
Yeah, because he was so engaged with people. He really enjoyed going out and meeting people and finding
very
out what
much
they
so.
knew and learning from them.
And he never let facts get in the way of a good New Orleans story.
But he said the reason he was good at his job is because he loved people.
That's right.
And he really
Loved
did.
people.
Yeah.
Hey, don't y'all just love the way we talk in New Orleans? I sure do. I'm Frank Davis for Channel 4 Eyewitness News, and yeah, you're right. This is Naturally New Orleans.
We've talked a lot about the familiar faces you see in front of the camera, but there's an even bigger group of people behind the scenes who have made Channel 4 a success. Tana's here now to talk with two of them.
That's right, Sheba. From producers to writers to engineers, technicians, and photographers, television takes a team. We're talking now with two members of that team who worked as news photographers for decades. Willie Wilson worked at Channel 4 from 1968 until his retirement in 2015. And Brian Lucas, whose local television career began in 1967. He joined the staff of Channel 4 in 1980 as a photographer, and like Willie, has traveled the world and all over his hometown covering stories here. Willie, 60 years, what does Channel 4 mean to you?
It's still family. Looking at Channel 4 is family. Every time I turn that tube on, I see it. They're hard workers, and it's just great.
Brian, you traveled the world, and seeing what you've seen, what keeps you here at Channel 4 and New Orleans?
I think what this station means to the community. People depend on us. They need us for their information. They look to us to kind of gain a little bit more insight into what the community is doing during the week, during the month, during the year. And so they kind of look for us for the information that they need to make decisions in their lives.
Willie, when I first got here, you called me the rookie because I actually walked into one of your shots and said, hey, don't do that again. When you look throughout your career, what were some of those memorable moments that stick out in your mind? I mean, you retired, and now you get to look back. What sticks out in your mind?
A couple of stories. First of all, Katrina.
Sure.
Okay. Secondly, Muhammad Ali. Thirdly, Bill Capo in action, helping people, saving people from things that they couldn't get, and Capo and I would get there, do stories, and we got help that they needed.
Brian, often we're in front of the camera and you're behind there, and people get to see our reaction, but they rarely see yours. When you process what you've seen, what sticks out in your mind and what resonates today?
I'll tell you what really sticks out, and I really didn't get the focus of our business until Eric Paulson and I interviewed Stephen Ambrose right before his passing in Bay St. Louis. And he looked at us and he says, you cover history on a daily basis, where I cover history in books. And that's what we do. We cover history on a daily basis. I'll never forget walking into the bombed out Shell building in Beirut. I'll never forget the Route Center fire. I'll never forget the Howard Johnson incident. I'll never forget those. But all of those wrapped into one piece of history called Hurricane Katrina in this city, and what that meant to us, it kind of makes you go back, and history touches your senses. We smell history, we touch history, we process history, and sometimes we stick it back in our mind and go through history that day and go forward the next day because we have to cover another story. As in Katrina, we covered stories for weeks, for years. And so you have to kind of sit back and just take a deep breath and realize you're serving the people that you're working for, and that's the community.
Willie, Brian, thank you very much.
Coming up, from Hap to Henderson and beyond, remembering 6 decades of eyewitness sports and the legendary forecasters who kept us informed, rain or shine. As Channel 4 celebrates 60 years.